on behalf of President von der Leyen. I am deeply concerned by yesterday's ruling of the Polish Constitutional Tribunal. I have instructed the Commission's services to analyze it thoroughly and swiftly. On this basis, we will decide on next steps. The EU is a community of values and laws. This is what binds our Union together and makes us strong. We will uphold the founding principles of our Union's legal order. Our 450 million Europeans rely on this. Our utmost priority is to ensure that the rights of Polish citizens are protected and that Polish citizens enjoy the benefits granted by membership of the European Union, just like all citizens of our Union. Moreover, EU citizens, as well as companies doing business in Poland, need the legal certainty that EU rules, including rulings of the European Court of Justice, are fully applied in Poland. Our treaties are very clear. All rulings by the European Court of Justice are binding on all member states' authorities, including national courts. EU law has primacy over national law, including constitutional provisions. This is what all EU member states have signed up to as members of the European Union. We will use all the powers that we have under the treaties to ensure this. Now, let me give you an overview of President von der Leyen's agenda for next week. On Tuesday, the President will be in Kiev to take part in the EU-Ukraine summit, and she will participate in the G20 Extraordinary Leaders Meeting on Afghanistan via video conference. On Wednesday, the President will be back in Brussels to chair the meeting of the College of Commissioners in the morning. Finally, on Wednesday afternoon, she will take part via video conference in the Malmö International Forum on Holocaust Remembrance and Combating Anti-Semitism. Je voudrais également vous rappeler qu'un Conseil Affaires intérieures se tient aujourd'hui à Luxembourg. La commissaire Ylva Johansson y participe pour le compte de la Commission. Les ministres discuteront des procédures à la frontière, notamment des questions de filtrage et rétention des personnes, de la situation en Afghanistan en ce qui concerne la protection internationale, la migration et la sécurité, de la situation sur les différentes routes migratoires et de la dimension numérique des enquêtes sur les abus sexuels sur mineurs. Une conférence de presse avec la commissaire Johansson est prévue vers 17h15 cet après-midi. Comme d'habitude, je vous remercie donc par avance de réserver vos questions liées aux affaires intérieures pour cette conférence de presse. Voilà les annonces que nous souhaitions faire aujourd'hui. Nous pouvons passer à vos questions. Et je passe la parole à Thomas. Thomas, il faut que tu appuies sur Speak ou que tu changes la source de ton micro. Oui, c'est bon.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry. I understand the need to analyze thoroughly the decision in Warsaw, but for something much more modest, Germany got an infringement procedure. I'm thinking about Karlsruhe when they decided that the ECJ had acted ultra vires. So is it fair to imagine that Poland is going down the same path? Thanks.
Thank you. Look, Thomas, I know that everybody would like us to already give the result of our analysis and the next steps, but I think that the statement is very clear. We will proceed in an orderly fashion, And that implies, first of all, that we will analyze the ruling in detail before deciding on next steps. Christian, do you want to add something?
Well, I mean, maybe just to add that this is, of course, something that quite an unprecedented ruling and situation, and so it is important that we analyze it carefully. So we have seen the oral representations yesterday, and we will, of course, analyze the actual ruling now carefully before deciding on the next steps.
Lily. On this, I suppose. I'm sorry. I take it for granted that it's on this.
Of course, on this. I understand that you're still analyzing, but I was wondering if the Commission is going to suspend its work on the Polish recovery plan pending the analysis on this ruling. Thank you.
Look, we are going to carry out the analysis. And in the meantime, the other tasks that the Commission has to undertake continue. Are there other questions on this issue? Please only keep your hand raised if it is on this issue. Pardon, Karl. J'en oublie la salle de presse. Désolé.
Oui, je voudrais revenir sur la procédure allemande. Je crois que le gouvernement allemand a envoyé cet été une réponse à la Commission où il reconnaît la primauté du droit européen. Est-ce que la procédure d'infraction allemande est close, du coup? Et Christian vient d'utiliser l'adjectif unprecedented. To what extent is it unprecedented, and to what extent is it much worse than the Karlsruhe ruling from 2020?
No, I think I understand that you would want us to go into a comparative analysis, but we will not go into this until we have done the full analysis of the ruling. What it is clear is that based on what we have heard yesterday, we are deeply concerned by this ruling, which is why we are going to analyze it now, both thoroughly and swiftly. On the German case, Christian.
Yeah, and just exactly to just factually add on the German case, this infringement procedure is indeed ongoing. We have received the reply over the summer, and we are currently analyzing it.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Sebastian Montes from Forbes. There's been some speculation about this decision from Poland and this attitude that they have taken could lead eventually to their desire to get out of the European Union. This could happen. Do you think that it could happen? And if it does, what would be the steps forward? Thank you.
Let me be very, very clear. We are not here to speculate about anything. We have yesterday heard a ruling by the Polish Constitutional Tribunal being read out. This ruling has to do with the standing of EU law in Poland, and it is therefore extremely important that we are able to understand its legal implications, as I have just read out in the statement from President von der Leyen. All the rest is speculation. And we are certainly not here to analyze potential consequences from a political point of view. We are here to make sure that EU law can enjoy its full powers in all EU member states, including Poland. This is what this is about. Vincenzo.
Opportunity, Vincenzo Genovese from Italian newspaper L'Inchiesta. After your analysis, could this decision of the Constitutional Tribunal have any kind of impact in the Commission assessment of the Polish Recovery and Resilience Plan? I mean, are these two separate tracks, or there could be a connection? Thank you.
Look, it will all depend on the results of the analysis. I understand that you would all want us to be able to tell you what are the consequences of the ruling, but let me be absolutely clear. We are going to take the time necessary to analyze the ruling before we make any further statements on possible next steps. I think that is the proper way of proceeding, and it implies that we will have to come back to these questions once we have finalized our analysis, which, as I said in the statement from President von der Leyen, will be swift. Lawrence.
Thanks, Eric. Can you hear me today?
I can hear you always, Lawrence.
What does SWIFT mean? Can you give us some sense of that? What does SWIFT mean? And that's the one thing she's saying in her statement today that you guys didn't say last night. So what are we talking about? A few days, a couple of weeks, what are we talking about? And I do want to come back to this recovery fund issue because it is so seemingly straightforward that the recovery fund money has been held up until now because of the various interventions around the judiciary. Clearly, whatever the analysis of yesterday's decision is, it is a further ratcheting up of the problems around the judiciary. So, ergo, is it not entirely logical that the recovery fund money will not go until this issue is resolved? Thanks.
Lawrence, I very much appreciate your reasoning. But it's not for me to say at this stage. I'm sorry to disappoint you on this. We are going to take things step by step. We have explained here what is the basis on which the analysis of all national recovery plans is based. We have said time and time again that this includes the fact that member states should put forward proposals for reforms related to CSRs in the European semester, and we will not go further than this. You know what the situation is when it comes to the CSRs that concern Poland. When it comes to the length, I think the fact that we say swift does not tie us to any specific amount of time. It means without delay. It means that we are going to look at this judgment, and the time it will take us to come with analysis will obviously depend on the complexity of the ruling and its implications for us. Now, you use the word seemingly, and the word seemingly is one that is not part of our vocabulary. We have to look at the actual text and what it implies. David.
Oui, merci Eric. David Carretta, Radio Radicale. Excuse-moi si j'insiste un petit peu sur cette question du temps et de l'approche pas à pas. Premièrement, sur l'approche step by step, est-ce que vous avez jamais fait une analyse des résultats de cette approche step by step? C'est-à-dire, on l'a vu avec la Hongrie, la Pologne, etc. Le step by step, les lettres de mise en demeure et tout ça ont porté à la situation actuelle et c'est toujours plus difficile de faire marche arrière par rapport aux résultats de cette approche de la part de la Commission. Deuxième question, c'est sur le délai, parce que quand il y a eu l'arrêt de la Cour constitutionnelle allemande le 5 mai 2020, vous avez dit on va l'analyser, on va prendre notre temps, mais on va le faire rapidement parce que la primauté du droit européen est très important. Vous avez envoyé la lettre de mise en demeure, si je me rappelle bien, j'ai la date ici, excuse-moi.
David, merci,
9 juin 2021.
Oui. Est-ce qu'on pourrait arriver à la question, s'il te plaît? Non, il ne faut pas le... Tu l'interdis? Non. Okay.
Plus d'un an. Donc, dans un an, où sera la Pologne? Où sera l'argent du Recovery Fund de la Pologne? Est-ce que vous allez faire quelque chose de différent par rapport au passé? Merci.
Merci David. Je ne peux pas rajouter d'autres éléments par rapport à ce que je dis et à ce que j'ai répondu à Lawrence. Je crois que vous pouvez être certain de ce que la Commission va analyser ce jugement aussi rapidement que possible. Je ne peux pas vous dire exactement combien de temps cela va prendre, puisque cela dépend de la complexité du jugement tel que analysé par nos juristes. Donc, nous avons ici une déclaration sur les moyens que nous allons mettre en œuvre, c'est-à-dire le fait de procéder à cette analyse sans délai. Maintenant, il faudra voir le temps que cela prend. En ce qui concerne le step-by-step approach, excuse-moi, ce n'est pas exactement ce dont je parlais avec les étapes d'une procédure d'infraction. Ce n'était pas du tout ce dont je parlais. Ce dont je parlais, c'était une séquence qui inclut dans un premier temps l'analyse du jugement et dans un deuxième temps, une fois que cette analyse est conclue, la décision sur d'éventuelles mesures à prendre. C'est tout. David, tu as un follow-up. Oh, sorry, Lawrence.
Oui, très bref.
Oui. Go ahead.
Tu m'entends?
Oui, oui, vas-y, je t'en prie.
Très bref. Vu que la présidente a mentionné tous les moyens dans son communiqué, est-ce qu'on peut savoir factuellement quels sont les moyens à la disposition de la Commission? Quels sont tous ces moyens?
Alors, nous voulons être très clairs sur le fait que les moyens que nous pourrions être amenés à mettre en œuvre dépendront du résultat de notre analyse. Donc, nous allons d'abord, et c'est pour ça que je dis step by step, nous allons procéder à l'analyse du jugement, et une fois que nous aurons finalisé l'analyse de ce jugement, alors nous pourrons voir quels sont les moyens à notre disposition. Lawrence, I apologize. I hadn't seen that you had asked for a follow-up.
No apology needed. I didn't. I just thought of another question. So, if there's someone ahead of the queue, go to them.
Quite a few. So thanks. We will come back to you. Jennifer, we are staying on this issue for the moment.
You can hear me. Thank you. I wanted to follow up Lily's question because I didn't understand why the Commission would not suspend the assessment of the recovery fund for Poland while this is pending, the assessment analysis you were doing on the court ruling yesterday. Surely that at least raises a you said it's going to be a timely analysis, it's going to be swift, but is there not at least a theoretical risk that you have the recovery fund for Poland approved and then you find a few days later that that shouldn't have happened because of the analysis that you reach in the court decision? I just don't understand why you would not freeze the analysis of the recovery plan while at least your analysis on the tribunal is pending. Thank you.
Look, I think we'll come back to that question if ever the hypothetical scenario which you have set out actually materializes. That's all I can say on this at this stage. Oliver.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for this. Good being physically in the room again. Two questions. First of all, in the Commission's view, are you dealing with a legal problem or is it a political problem? And secondly, ever since President von der Leyen was nominated and then took over her post, the standard line on the Polish assault on the rule of law was, quote, nobody's perfect, we have problems in all member states, we all have to do better, and so forth. This started with the first briefing she gave to us correspondents when she was about to go to Strasbourg to have the vote, and it kept going on and on and on. So in light of this esprit she had, does the Commission regret its strategy so far vis-à-vis the government in Poland? Do you think you were too soft? And do you think you should change course in that regard, beyond the legal analysis you mentioned? Thank you.
Thank you. We are clearly dealing here with a legal issue in the sense that we have a ruling by the Constitutional Tribunal of Poland. And therefore, we are going to proceed with a legal analysis. of this ruling and what its consequences are. And on that basis, we will see what are the actions that may need to be taken. It's not for me here to discuss the nature of actions that are to be taken, but it is clear that the Commission, as a body, has legal prerogatives when it comes to defending the treaties in its role as guardian of the treaties. This is what we are discussing today. Secondly, let me take issue with your statement on the proceedings when it comes to the rule of law in Poland, as you said. I think that Christian could detail to you all the actions that the Commission has taken, which are in its powers, and which have led to judgments by the Court of Justice in various cases. So I think it is extremely clear that we have been diligent in ensuring that the Polish authorities comply with their obligations under the EU treaties, and this since day one of this Commission. Now, we are institutions that are bound by law. We're institutions that work based on prerogatives that are given to us in the treaties. And this is how we will obviously continue to operate in our role as a European Commission. Short follow-up, yeah.
Thank you. In light of this, does the Commission President consider Prime Minister Morawiecki still a reliable, trustful interlocutor, given that he and his government intervened in these proceedings? What do you make of the assumption that actually he's performing some sort of double-speak, double-talk, talking nicely with her in his very polished manners, and at the same time actually promoting the authoritarian, anti-EU, anti-European politics that Mr. Kaczynski, as an éminence grise in the background, is actually conducting for several years already. So does Mr. Morawiecki still have the full trust of the Commission President in light of yesterday's ruling? Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. But it's not for the President of the Commission to give her trust to elected members of governments. The Commission works with the national governments elected by European citizens after an election process. So, quite frankly, this is not something on which we ever make comments, as you well know. The fact is that, indeed, this court case was brought about by a letter sent by the Prime Minister. But the fact is, as well, that for us, what counts is the ruling, and this is what we will focus our attention on. David.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. So I wonder if I could ask you about two lines in the closing paragraph of the President's statement today. The first being, our treaties are very clear, and then her last line, we will use all the powers that we have under the treaties to ensure this. And so my question is, first of all, isn't it actually obvious that the treaties aren't clear because these kinds of issues keep coming up and the Commission keeps getting challenged by national governments and national courts on this? And to the end point, can we conclude now, after all the precedents that you've discussed, that David Corrado was citing in his question, that in fact the Commission does not have sufficient powers under the treaties to manage these rule of law concerns? And this is why the Parliament and the Commission and the Council worked to put a rule of law mechanism into the MFF and recovery package, that in fact the treaties are limited. And is there a thought beyond the immediate analysis of this case, maybe through the Conference on the Future of Europe or some other path toward obtaining greater powers for the Commission to enforce compliance with provisions of the treaties that don't seem to be as clear to everybody else as they are to the President of the Commission? Thanks.
Thank you. Look, we have a ruling by a constitutional tribunal describing it as a challenge to this or that institution belies the fact that actually all institutions of the European Union and by the way, the member states, this is exactly what we've been saying in the statement, are actually working in an EU legal framework. So it's not about a challenge to this or that institution. It is about the interpretation of the EU legal framework and its application in a specific member state. Now, in that sense, the Commission has a certain number of prerogatives under the treaties, and we are making use of them. Now, clearly, the tools, the legal tools, have been evolving over time, as you know, and you mentioned some, and therefore, the Commission works with the tools that it is given. It's not for us to be judging whether those tools are sufficient or not. It is for us to wield the tools that we have at our disposal. We are faced with a concrete task. David, follow up.
Yeah, Eric, just quickly on that point. I mean, isn't it exactly the place of the Commission to say whether these tools are sufficient? I mean, this is what you do all the time when you say there should be a health union because the Commission needs more authority on health policy. I really would like you to answer just very specifically whether, in fact, it's your and the Commission's assessment that there's enough authority under the existing treaties to ensure compliance with the rule of law requirements.
David, you know that we have been ourselves very proactive in developing tools, and this is precisely why we have developed the rule of law reports, for example. It is clear that things are never set in stone. They need to continue to evolve in line with the evolutions of the European Union, and this is what we will continue to do. We have made proposals. For example, the introduction of these rule of law reports, which show that we consider that the situation requires that we find new ways of dialoguing with all member states on the rule of law. For the rest, I have no further comment to make. Angela.
Yes, thank you, Rick. Good morning. I don't know if you have an answer for my question. I think not, but I try anyway. About the Recovery Resilience Plan, the Polish one, obviously. I was wondering that if, in the light of what happens or what has happened yesterday, you have a timeline, a deadline for the decision on the plan. Thanks.
The answer can be summarized in one word: no. Odile. Ça fait longtemps, Odile. Bienvenue. Et c'est une question sur ceci, hein?
Ah non.
Ah,
c'est pas non, c'est
les poissons, c'est plus tard. Philippe. Pardon, un petit peu d'humour.
Bonjour. J'ai aussi une question concernant tous les pouvoirs qui sont à la disposition de la Commission sur cet aspect-là de la déclaration de la présidence. Je voudrais savoir si on peut envisager un autre pouvoir que celui d'une éventuelle rétention des fonds communautaires à partir du moment, et c'est d'ailleurs le nœud du problème, à partir du moment où, semble-t-il, la décision polonaise remet en cause la primauté du droit européen et donc de décisions éventuelles de la Cour de justice qui pourrait prendre des astreintes, etc. Donc, est-ce qu'il y a autre pouvoir entre les mains de la Commission que celui de la rétention de fonds ou pas? Est-ce qu'il y a juste alors sinon le name and shame et that's all? Merci.
Philippe, merci. Comme je l'ai dit, je comprends l'intérêt pour cette question, mais nous reviendrons sur ce sujet une fois que nous avons terminé l'analyse du jugement et de ses conséquences, car les outils qui sont à la disposition de la Commission, évidemment, dépendront du résultat de cette analyse. Federica. Ah, Philippe, pardon, tu as un follow-up.
Juste pour insister, est-ce que tu pourrais citer quelques exemples de pouvoirs entre les mains de la Commission autres que la rétention de fonds, ou bien est-ce qu'il n'y en a pas et donc c'est pas possible d'en citer? Merci.
Non, ce n'est absolument pas ce que j'ai dit. Je comprends que tu insistes, mais j'insiste dans ma réponse. Nous allons revenir sur ce sujet une fois que l'analyse du jugement aura été finalisée par la Commission. Federica.
Michael, Federica Bianchi, L'Espresso. Let me go back on the issue of the link between the recovery fund and the present situation, because you gave an answer, I think, 4 or 5 colleagues ago, and that was not very clear. I mean, somebody asked you why there is no suspension of the analysis of the recovery fund in light of the current situation. And I still don't understand why. So you are still considering the recovery plan, even though something this big has happened. I'm not clear why. So I just need some further clarification. That's all.
Federica, it's very simple. It's because as long as we haven't analyzed the judgment in detail, we do not know what can be the consequences of it, and therefore. Work in the Commission continues in relation to Poland on all strands, but we will, of course, take into account the results of the analysis once those are available. Lawrence, back to you.
Thanks, Eric. First of all, I want to come back to something you said and just understand your logic here, and then I'll follow it with my question. You said this is a legal issue when you were asked if it's legal or political by Oliver. I'm a little astonished, and I want to get your reasoning. Unless I got the facts wrong, this was a ruling that came from a letter from Prime Minister Morawiecki. He could have withdrawn that letter and that question to the court at any stage, but he didn't. The decision was suspended several times. The judgment was suspended several times, but the Polish government went ahead with it. And in the end, a body that the Commission itself says its judicial independence is in question, gave a ruling on a question from the Prime Minister. How on earth is that not political? And then I'll come back to my second question.
Look, it's not for me to judge what is a political issue, what is not a political issue. I am here today with a statement from the President of the European Commission on the fact that we have a legal ruling. And we are going to analyze this legal ruling. The rest is analysis. And today, what is important for the European Commission is the impact that this ruling might have on the rights of Polish citizens, on the rights of other citizens in the EU, and as we said, businesses doing business in Poland. So quite frankly, that's our point. We are here today standing in front of you making this statement because we have a legal act. Are there politics around this legal act? I'm sure there are. But this is not the function of the European Commission today. Today, the Commission is here with the task of analyzing a very important ruling by the Polish Constitutional Tribunal. And this is what we will carry out swiftly and thoroughly. Lawrence, your next question.
Yeah, and this was the one that I was originally going to ask. Just very simply, given what's happened this week, do you believe that the Polish government is negotiating with you guys over judicial issues, particularly in the context of the Recovery Fund, in good faith?
Let me put it differently, Lawrence. It is very clear that in order for any national plan, including the Polish national plan, to be adopted, for the Commission to give a positive opinion, we need to be satisfied that a significant subset of country-specific recommendations have been met. It has been said, indeed, that the issue of the independence of the judiciary is one of the themes under which we are in discussion, and our positive or our recommendation, whether positive or negative, our recommendation will come once we are satisfied with the answer from the Polish authorities on this. On this?
Oui, bonjour. Je ne suis pas très au fait du droit polonais, mais il semblerait que cet arrêt ne soit pas applicable tant que l'arrêt n'est pas publié au journal officiel polonais. Donc je voulais savoir si c'est effectivement le cas. Et justement,
c'est une question qu'il faudrait poser aux autorités polonaises, mais notre compréhension du sujet est celle-là, effectivement.
Okay.
Mais ça, c'est une question pour les autorités polonaises.
Déclaration, en fait.
On a, écoute, c'est une question qu'il faut poser aux autorités polonaises.
Okay.
Nous, on a eu la lecture d'un jugement par la Cour constitutionnelle polonaise. Je crois comprendre qu'entre-temps, le jugement a été publié en polonais sur le site de la Cour constitutionnelle polonaise.
Je crois aussi uniquement quand il est publié au journal officiel polonais.
C'est notre compréhension aussi, mais c'est une question qu'il faut poser aux Polonais.
Donc est-ce que vous pensez qu'il y a une possibilité qu'il ne le soit pas?
C'est une question. Non, ce sont des questions de conjecture auxquelles nous ne répondons pas. Ça n'est pas notre propos.
Est-ce que vous pensez que votre analyse est-ce qu'elle sera publiée uniquement après la publication de cet arrêt au journal officiel polonais?
On verra. On verra. Je ne vois plus d'autres questions pour nous sur ce sujet aujourd'hui. Merci, Christiane. Je reviens à Odile. Odile, es-tu encore avec nous? Oui. Quelque chose me dit que tu vas poser une question sur la pêche.
Indirectement peut-être, mais c'est en fait une question pratique pour préparer la conférence climat à Glasgow. Vous avez peut-être déjà donné cette information pendant mon absence. Si c'est le cas, je vous prie de m'en excuser. J'aimerais savoir les compositions de la délégation de la Commission et aussi peut-être de EAS. Pour préparer le travail sur place.
Oui, Odile.
Si possible.
Nous serons ravis de répondre à sa question de manière bilatérale. Si d'autres collègues sont intéressés par la réponse à cette question, mentionnez-le nous et nous vous inclurons dans la réponse. Noureddine.
Bonjour Rick, j'ai une question qui concerne une déclaration prêtée à M. Borrell, où il aurait décrit la décision de l'Australie de changer de choix militaire ou d'achat de matériel américain et britannique, que cette décision était rationnelle, d'après ce qui a été rapporté. Qu'est-ce que M. le haut représentant avait dit précisément et que voulait-il dire? Je te remercie.
Nabila.
Oui, bonjour Noureddine et merci pour ta question. Écoute, ce que je peux dire, c'est que ces déclarations ont été faites en réponse à des questions dans le cadre de son intervention au forum Nueva Economia. Il a souligné que la décision était regrettable et non amicale. Le reste faisait référence aux tensions dans la région du Pacifique et l'importance des États-Unis dans le contexte d'une relance chinoise. Donc le haut représentant a abordé la dynamique géopolitique et la perspective australienne qui a conduit à une décision préjudiciable à l'Europe. Il ne justifiait en aucun cas la décision. Il a d'ailleurs souligné l'importance de la déclaration des présidents Macron-Biden et ce que cela signifie en matière de défense des Européens. Et bien sûr, le haut-commissaire a dit à plusieurs reprises qu'il s'agit d'une décision qui affecte l'Union européenne dans son ensemble.
Merci. Y a-t-il d'autres questions de politique étrangère pour Nabila? Ça n'est pas le cas. Donc je reviens à Jonathan qui a demandé la parole. Todd, Todd. Apologies. Todd, go ahead.
Thank you, Eric. Yes. Thank you, Eric. Todd Buell from Law 360. I have a question about tax. We're probably hours away from an international tax deal at the OECD, and I'm wondering, does the Commission still intend to implement a digital levy a little bit, later in the year, and I'm wondering if that is still the case. Are there risks that the Commission sees that? Pardon me. Are there risks that the Commission sees that this might harm the implementation of the OECD deal if the EU goes forward with the digital levy? Thank you.
Yes, I'll call Dan on this question.
Hi, Todd. Thanks very much for your question. Indeed, as you say yourself, there are meetings happening right now as we speak. So in terms of what is happening in the OECD right now, I'm going to hold off on commenting. As you know, that the meetings are happening in parallel. Let's wait and see what comes out of those meetings, and then we can react. On the digital levy, you know that we had said before that we would come back to this issue, and at this exact moment in time, I have no further comment to make.
Thank you. Are there other questions for Dan today on tax or financial services issues? David.
Oui, merci. Dan, je voulais te demander, premièrement, quels sont les pays de l'Union européenne qui n'ont pas adhéré à l'accord pour l'instant. L'Irlande a annoncé hier, on a vu le commentaire du commissaire Gentiloni. Je voulais savoir quels pays sont encore dehors et quelles sont les conséquences. Et donc, qu'est-ce que vous allez faire pour essayer de les convaincre? Merci.
Merci David. Oui, je pense que vous avez vu hier que l'Estonie a aussi dit que maintenant l'Estonie soutient l'accord. Que je sache, il y a un État membre, l'Hongrie, mais il faut parler directement avec eux pour confirmer leur position. Je ne peux pas évidemment parler de leur part.
Merci. D'autres questions pour Dan? David, follow-up?
Oui, excuse-moi, je voulais juste savoir, parce que je ne suis pas du tout un expert, quelles sont les conséquences en termes de possibilités après pour l'Union européenne de légiférer et tout ça, s'il n'y a pas tous les pays de l'Union à bord.
Oui, pardon David, j'ai oublié de répondre à cette partie-là de ta question. Notre position, c'est que nous allons travailler étroitement avec tous les États membres qui font partie du Inclusive Framework de l'OCDE qui travaille sur ce sujet en ce moment. Donc c'est ça notre position. Donc, nous allons travailler avec eux pour essayer d'avoir le soutien des États membres. Après, nous avons toujours dit que nous allons proposer des propositions législatives pour mettre en place la solution internationale au sein du droit européen. Et nous allons faire ça très vite après la solution, j'espère, trouvée au sein de l'OCDE.
Merci. Je ne vois pas d'autres questions pour Dan. Y a-t-il d'autres sujets pour nous aujourd'hui? Yes.
Question regarding Apple. I'm reading that the authorities, anti-monopolium in the European Union, are investigating Apple for the use of the NFC chip technology. And I want to know, how does this follow up the investigations that you're making into Apple since June of last year about anti-monopolium practices? And what could be the measures to take in the future regarding Apple? Thank you.
Ariane.
Hello, I'm afraid it's going to be a very short reply. The investigation is ongoing and therefore, unfortunately, we have no comment and of course we cannot speculate on possible scenarios.
Any other competition questions for Ariana? No. Any other issues for us today? Nick. Go ahead.
There we go. Sorry, Eric. Yeah, just a quick one. And apologies if this has been covered in recent days. I haven't been able to tune in. But on Nord Stream 2, I see both the UK and Ukraine have said that they feel that Russia is basically trying to choke off energy supplies to Europe to put pressure on over Nord Stream 2. I just wonder. And, obviously this is a threat to Europe's sort of long-term energy supply. I wonder if that's an assessment that the Commission shares, or whether you're not sort of concerned about this project going ahead. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Tim.
Thanks, Nick. As you say, lots of comments and speculation and people saying different things in the press. That's not our business. As you know full well, I'm not going to comment on that and the situation. Nord Stream 2, as you know, is not a project of common European interest. What it has to do once built and to enter into force is comply with all the European regulations that are in place. The current stage where we are, we understand that the pipeline has been completed, the construction, and now there's an application for certification, which goes first to the German regulator, in this case, who are working on that at the moment. The German regulator will then adopt a draft certification decision. It will send that to the Commission, who then has 2 months to adopt an opinion on that, which we will then send back to the German regulator, and they have to take into account our opinion on their draft decision. So that's all I can say. I'm going to keep it procedural, and as you know, we're not going to speculate and make comments on all these other stories that are swirling around.
Nick, you have a follow-up question.
Yeah, thanks. Very quickly, just on that procedure, I know you said you've got 2 months. Have you had any indication of how long that process will take in Germany? I appreciate you can't be precise, but I mean, just any kind of indication of how long until it might be approved.
Yeah, well, I can give you the timeline of how long the Germans have, not necessarily how long they will take. So they have 4 months to take that decision, and they got the application on the 8th of September, so they have 4 months from that date.
Any other energy-related questions for Tim? No? Any other issues? Yes, please.
Hello? Yeah. Fabio Fantozzi, La Presse. 12 member states have sent a letter asking for building up fences or borders at the frontiers. I want to know if yesterday the ministers raised this issue in the forum on the settlement, and if they are discussing this in the Council, and what's the position of the Commission?
Thanks. On the letter, we have received a letter, that is clear, and we will answer it in due time. On proceedings in the resettlement forum, there was a press conference on this, so we have nothing to add to what the Commissioner said during the press conference. And on discussions in Council, you are definitely addressing the wrong institution here. Any other questions for us today? Angela.
12 countries from the Eastern Europe are asking the EU to finance the construction of walls at the borders in the eastern part of the continent. Do you think this is right request? I mean, do you think it is possible for the EU to finance these works? Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. I think you haven't heard the response I gave to the previous question. I can confirm that we have received the letter and we will answer it in due time. I think that Adalbert has, on this podium, time and time again, explicitly described what it is that we can finance when it comes to border management, and these are integrated border management systems. Any other questions for us today? Yes, please.
Peter Thompson, Watchmeter. This is a question on road safety. Earlier this week, the Parliament adopted a resolution regarding, amongst other things, the speeding limits in residential areas, which was meant to be set at 30 kilometers an hour. I just want to know whether or not the Commission is of the same mind, and if so, if you can see that passed into some form of legislation.
I'm not aware of any Commission reaction to the vote of this resolution from the European Parliament. So if we do have a position on this, we will come back to you. Any other questions for us today? That is not the case. Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend. See you next week.